He's back into it in Chester. Here's El Senior. Yes! Yes!
The center back, Jacob Glesnes,
He's going for it.
Yes! Oh my goal! What a goal!
And that will do it! One of the best comebacks in recent years. 3 unanswered by the Union. And they go into the Gold Cup break, winning it 3-2.
Hello and welcome to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd. And what a late game it was last night. And let's not have another 11 p.m. kickoff again, as that was a tough one. But I guess the good thing is the Union were able to get a goal within the first 10 minutes of the game. And for anybody that were tired, were struggling to get through the first couple minutes of the game, you know, that goal that the Union scored definitely, I feel like, had to have woken people up. And, you know, it was a really entertaining game, just like the last time we saw in 2020. I know that was at least what they were talking about a lot on the LAFC broadcast was the last time that these two teams met, as we all know, was the last game before COVID shut down the league. And I know MLS as a whole were talking about that last meeting too, leading up to this game. And yeah, it sucks that game couldn't be on national television because you had the battle of first in the West, battle of the first in the East. But, no, MLS, the TV networks, they already had their games selected, and I guess I didn't feel like going back and adding another game to the national schedule, but it is what it is. We got a great, entertaining game, and at least we got to see the Union play, so yeah, I guess it'd be one thing if we weren't able to watch the game on TV, so luckily we were able to watch them on TV, and have a couple bits of news I want to get to. I'll talk about the game against LAFC. Gerver breaking down the goals, 3-star players. We'll bring back Blunder of the Week this week. And we'll go over, you know, the Union are 34% done their schedule this year. They played 10 games, 24 more games to go. So I'll go ahead and give you guys my 5 Union MVP candidates early on in this season. I already put out a Twitter thread earlier today, and a lot of you guys were interacting on Twitter with that. So if you guys haven't, I'll leave a link in the show description where you guys can interact with that, because I would love to hear who you guys think are your top 5 Union MVP candidates through the first 10 games. But like I said, we have a lot of news to get through, so let's go ahead and get through it. So, had a ton of MLS games to watch leading up to the Union's game. And if you guys were watching the Atlanta United versus Chicago Fire game last night, you saw Mamadou Fall, the center back for Atlanta United, go down in the 14th minute, which looked to be a torn Achilles. I've been looking all day on social media, on Atlanta United's website, the beat reporters that cover the team down there. Nobody said anything about Miles Robinson other than he was getting an MRI to find out exactly what the injury is. But if this is yet again another Achilles injury, look, you guys have heard me talk about it with Alonso. You guys have heard me talk about it with Joseph Martinez missing some more times. You guys have heard me talk about Edmondson Hyndman tearing his ACL. I mean, there's been so many injuries with Atlanta United the last couple of seasons, and again, another Achilles injury, it looks like, potentially for Atlanta United. And I know a lot of people, and myself included, were blaming the turf and everything. That's the reason for the injury. And I know a lot of Atlanta United fans were saying the same thing. And there was like a couple people I saw that were linking a study done by, I'm not sure if it was a team in Scotland, in Sweden, or if it was just people that were doing this study in Sweden, and they looked up injuries on turf for college soccer, and yeah, they said the science shows that playing on turf, there is no indifference from playing on that than on grass. There's no massive increase of injuries. I know the NFLPA the last couple of years have said they want to be done playing on turf, and they've had studies shown that players have got more injured on turf than they have on grass. But the study that happened in Sweden said, not so fast. And Yeah, I get it. Soccer and NFL, totally different ball game. A lot faster pace in the NFL. But yeah, I mean, for Atlanta United to lose yet again another player this season, it looks like nothing's been confirmed. But Miles Robinson had to leave that game on a stretcher. It did not look good. He was pounding the ground because he knew that something wasn't right in his leg, and I guess we'll find out sometime this week. And I know Atlanta United fans are probably not listening to this podcast, but if they are, you do feel bad for you guys because I've said it before and I'll continue to say it. I want the Union playing teams when they're at their full strength. I don't want the Union playing against teams where they're missing somebody because of a red card, they're missing because of injury. I want to see teams at the full strengths when the Union take on them. Miles Robinson, well, did not look good. So that's one to keep an eye out for to find out what the official injury was. Now, if you go ahead and look at CF Montreal, they came out and said that they're going to change the logo for the 2023 season because apparently the logo was the issue. Apparently, nobody has a problem with the name. Everybody loves the name CF Montreal, but the logo, oh man, that's got to go. And Montreal, they came out and said that we have listened to our supporters and our partners. We will soon unreveal a new logo, which will be officially used as of the 2023 season. This emblem will highlight several key elements of our identity and history. Yeah, I mean, the whole issue isn't the emblem, the badge. I actually like the logo. It's pretty creative. It's a lot different than a lot of teams' badges, and I think different's a good thing. And apparently, the whole issues, the badge, not the name. Why they went away from Montreal Impact is beyond me. I have no clue. They should definitely go back to the Impact name, in my opinion. But yeah, they're going to go ahead and change the logo and not the name. I don't know. If they get a lot of hate on social media, then I guess potentially they can go back and change the name. But, oh, man. Could you guys imagine if the union came out and said, "Yeah, we're changing the badge, we're changing our name"? I mean, fans would be up in arms if all of a sudden the union came out and said, "Yeah, we're going to be Philadelphia FC, CF Philadelphia," and got rid of the union. I mean, ugh. There's way too many Uniteds. There's way too many FCs in the world, and to see the union be one of these original teams that don't have either one of those FCs or CFs in their names, it's good. And Montreal, again, just they think the whole issue is the logo, and thank goodness none of us are Montreal fans, right? But two more bits I want to get to. Number one, Chase Gasper has been traded to LA Galaxy from Minnesota United. And Chase, he's a player that spent 3 years in Minnesota, 63 appearances, 60 of those were starts. He had 2 goals, 1 assist with Minnesota United. Minnesota United will receive up to $750,000 in GAM. And Chase was a player that missed a month and a half because he went into the league's substance abuse policy, checked himself in and everything, and was reinstated, I believe, last week or 2 weeks ago. And Minnesota decided, hey, look, we signed Kemar Lawrence, former Toronto FC player. He's been playing well for us, and we think that this move is best for all parties. For Chase, where he gets a chance to go ahead and start in LA. He played with UCLA Bruins, so he has ties out in LA. And Kemar Lawrence, well, has found new life in MLS after leaving Toronto, going to Belgium, coming back, not really getting a chance in Toronto, gets traded to Minnesota, and he's looked good for the Loons this season and forces Minnesota to make a trade for Chase to LA. And Minnesota, if he hits all the incentives, they're getting a good amount of money back in GAM for Chase next year and the year prior. So we all know how teams value GAM. We've seen it a ton this season, prior and during the season. Players are going for a decent amount of GAM, and I know we haven't seen any big signings yet from teams that are piling up on GAM, but yeah, I'm sure once the summer transfer window opens up, I'm sure we'll see a couple big signings for teams that have been stockpiling on GAM. And the final move I want to talk about is Chris Mueller has returned to MLS from Scottish side Hibs. To acquire Chris, Chicago Fire had to send $500,000 in GAM to Orlando City. So they're sending $250,000 in 2022 and $250,000 in 2023. Chris had 21 goals and 24 assists across 112 regular season games with Orlando. In 2020, I would say that was probably Chris Mueller's best season. With Orlando City, he led them to the playoffs. Chris apparently was unhappy in Orlando, so he took the first offer he get. It came from Hibs. He had 1 goal in 15 appearances in Scotland, and he obviously couldn't settle in. And I think if Orlando City were happy trading him within the league, then he probably would have stayed in the league without going to Europe. But Chris was able to get out of his contract with Hibs and was able to return back to his native Chicago with the Fire. And look, Orlando City get a ton of money back in return, and they're a team that has spent a lot of money this offseason, and getting $250,000 this year in GAM. I'm sure it's possible that we see Orlando City just be one of those teams that bring in yet again another big player during the summer transfer window. But that's pretty much everything I want to talk about in regards to the news. So let's go ahead and talk about LAFC versus the Union. And you guys know, typically I go ahead and give my overall thoughts, and then I'll play some clips from the post-game press conference. But I'm actually going to start with a clip before I give my thoughts. And I talked about it last week on the pod and on Twitter that it's a concern that the Union have blown leads in 3 straight games, and last night's game against LAFC made it 4 straight games. And Jim Curtin stated in his press conference and had to say this on that stat.
We don't hide from it at all. It's literally what I said at halftime. I said, guys, we've worked our butts off. I use different language, but I said we've worked our butts off to get leads in the last 3 games, and we haven't taken the full 3 points. Like, this is a moment now where we have to be killers. And I thought we actually, I still think we played a great game. We played a great second half. Sometimes in stretches of the season, the break doesn't go your way. You don't get the final, that third goal that maybe Sergio could square it. You don't get the benefit of the doubt of something that maybe could have been a red card, or you know what I mean? Like, there's some things that have gone against us. A couple blown calls at the end of this game that were really strange and questionable. So those little things, I think if we continue to work hard, we'll take care of itself. But we don't hide from that we've dropped, leads for sure. It's not something that's characteristically from this group. I think each game is different and unique for sure. I think the atmospheres in Nashville and LA certainly played a role. The one that we dropped in Montreal is the one that I'd say is inexcusable and can't happen at home, where we should be the team dictating things. But on the road, giving up a late goal makes us very angry for sure. But at the same time, when you look at the quality of opponent and the effort our guys put in, and you really analyze the game, we were pretty solid in both. So we'll stay positive on that. But certainly, Jonathan, I addressed it at halftime, and they're aware, and they're not happy either.
Yeah, and it's frustrating because the Union should have won both games against Nashville and now LAFC. You give up a late penalty against Nashville, which is unfortunate because you played that game terrifically. You defended set pieces well, and of course, a handball in the box, and you give up a penalty after you defended the long throw-ins, you defended the crosses, you defended the corner kicks well against Nashville, and then you give up a penalty kick. And then against LAFC, you give up the lead. You had the lead twice, and you allowed LAFC to come and tie the game both times. And I think the biggest concern for me right now is that this team just can't build on their 1-goal lead. You heard Jim say, he told the guys at halftime, we got to be killers. We got to build on this. They went into the half up 1-0. And what happens? And they come out and, a little bit panicky, a little bit of a slow start than what they probably would have liked in the second half. And then in the 56th minute, they go ahead and give up the goal. And, you get the first goal and then you miss opportunities to build on it. And Jim Curtin mentioned it. You guys are talking about it on social media. If Sergio would have squared the ball to Julian when it was 2-1, that would have made the game 3-1. And in my opinion, that would have put LAFC out of it for sure. LAFC would have came and put more men for it, which would have caused more counterattacking opportunities for the Union. And that's how they're built. They're going to keep playing this fast transition ball and have rush passes, but you can't say that it's not working. I know I've seen, people, again, just more people this week complaining, oh, Jim Curtin has to change his style. The way that the Union are playing isn't working. And I'm not sure how you can say that it's not working. They've scored in 10 straight games, something they've never done before. They're scoring goals. They're creating chances. They're just not building on that lead. They have 2 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss on the road. And they only have 1 loss overall on this season. And I think a lot of fans, if you would have told them this is how the Union were going to start the first 10 games of the season, you absolutely would have taken it. But, I think fans are buying into the passing percentage, the low possession stats. And Jim Curtin's talked about it week in, week out, that he does not care about possession. He does not care that, they're not passing the ball accurately. But fans just want to continue to complain about something on social media. They act like they know better than Jim Curtin and his staff. And I get people are frustrated, but how can you be frustrated when the Union are in first place in the Eastern Conference? The only thing that I'm frustrated about is that they can't build on their lead. They score 1 goal and then they give up a goal. They score another goal and then they give up another goal. Or they score a goal against Charlotte and then they have to wait a while to get that second goal. It's like, man, you want to get the first goal and then you want to go ahead and get the second goal right after. And I guess, the one positive you can say about the Union, every time that they do concede and let the game get tied up, right at the start of the kickoff, they're already back in the attacking third of the opposition, looking like they're going to score and get that goal right back. And it happened again last night against LAFC, but they weren't able to capitalize on that opportunity. But yeah, I'm just not sure why fans are complaining just to complain. And yeah, I guess, I don't know. I guess it would be one thing, right, if the Union were playing terribly, and I guess I would understand why people are complaining, but they're in first place, and like I said, they're creating chances, they're scoring goals. 10 straight games. They've never done that before, like I said. So, yeah, I don't know. I get people just want to complain just to complain, and I'm sure that's what a lot of people are doing, but people should be proud of how the Union are playing. And I know you can't live off of what ifs in soccer, but yeah, what if the Union won against Nashville and LAFC? Then they're sitting even better at the top. But you can't worry about what they've done in the past. You just got to focus on New York Red Bulls coming up, the U.S. Open Cup game against Orlando City. And I know that's what they're going to focus on. And yeah, hopefully the Union can just build on the leads now going forward. But it's definitely something to pay attention to. And yeah, I do think blowing leads in 4 straight games is also something to pay attention to. But this is a game, in all honesty, that I expected the Union to lose because they flew from Nashville. LAFC don't lose at home. They scored 12 goals and conceded 3 at home prior to the game against the Union. They don't concede in the second half, and it was always going to be a tough game, and one that I thought the Union would be up for, but ultimately, I thought they'd probably fall short in this game. But you take a point against LAFC, and maybe that point will go and make all the difference for the supporter shield. Who knows? But the fact is that the Union could have and probably should have won this game, and that's what bothers me, that they should have won the game against Nashville. They should have won the game against LAFC. I mean, on top of that, I guess, no, the good thing is that they didn't lose. I I think we'd be seeing a lot more people complaining on social media if the Union just outright blew the lead and lost the games. They haven't done that, but you do want to see the Union finish games strong, and yeah, I don't want to be too negative and uh, just complain about that the whole time. So that's really the only thing that bothered me in this game. Is that again they blew the lead. But again, not taking anything away from LAFC at all because I thought they played phenomenal. Calls 12 corners in this game, which was way too many again for the Union to concede. LAFC scored off of another set piece, which is now a league leading 9 goals, I believe it is. They moved the ball really well, finding a lot of opportunities to shoot the ball from inside the box. I guess the good thing is the Union weren't allowing them opportunities to shoot the ball from dangerous areas. Nate Harriel and Kai Wagner both have fantastic games containing Vela and Mahala, especially Vela. They kept Carlos frustrated on the night, kept him out of the game, really. You saw that he was constantly changing sides, trying to find space on the right, on the left, but he wasn't getting it. And I knew Nate got caught up the field a little too high, which gave away the first goal. But other than that, he was really, really solid again. And I saw a lot of people on social media just talking about Jose Martinez with him not looking as sharp as he has in the past. And, I do agree with that a little bit, but I think offensively, he's taking his game to another level. He's definitely got a lot better offensively, but I do agree that defensively, he is getting dispossessed a little too much in really dangerous areas, which then causes the defense to be caught out of position. And Jose on the night was dispossessed 2 times, and he's tied for 10th in MLS and being dispossessed 11 times. So I think, if you want to keep complaining about something, then maybe you can complain about Jose Martinez losing the ball in dangerous areas. And I get it, he has confidence in his dribbling abilities, but, sometimes it's just best to, if you can't make a play, just boot the ball off the field, kick the ball out of play, let your team reset. And sometimes he tries to take on T3 players in really dangerous areas, and he gets the ball stolen off of him. So, yeah, I do see the frustration with fans that are complaining about that on social media, but um, I don't think it's something to say, oh, well, let's move Leon Flock to the 6 and let's bench Jose for a couple games. I know fans aren't saying that at all, but yeah, I don't think we're close to that point at all. It's just Jose just has a lot of confidence in his ability to dribble out of those tight spaces, and he's getting dispossessed. Sergio Santos was another one I saw get complained about a little bit. Yeah, I thought that his pace changed the game, but he really does lack the final decision making once he enters the 18-yard box. And I guess I know I saw fans say, "Oh, well, they're done with Sergio Santos, they're done with Corey Burke." I'm not going to talk about Corey Burke anymore. But Sergio Santos, I think he still offers you something. And if you want to say he's not a starter in this league, then that's fine. I can accept that. But I think he's a really, really good bench option. Again, just his pace and going at players 1v1. But it's just getting his decision making better once he enters that 18-yard box, because you saw he could have squared the ball to Julian Kranza, would have made the game 3-1, but he tried to take it himself. I don't know if he didn't see Julian. I don't know if he wanted to be selfish and try to be the hero. I don't think he wanted to be selfish, because we saw him have a similar play against Charlotte where he crossed the ball into Julian and the Union went up 1-0 against Charlotte. But yeah, his decision making at times isn't the best once he reaches that point of the field. And then if you go ahead and look, if you want to be happy, or if you want to be happy about one thing, then if you look at the Union's first 10 games last year, in the first 15 minutes of the games, the Union only scored 1 goal in those first 15 minutes in their first 10 games. And if you look at it this year, they scored 4 goals in the first 15 minutes which is tied for first in MLS. And, I asked Jim Curtin about how this team has been able to turn around the way that they've started games last year compared to this year.
Yeah, look, I think the players deserve the credit for that. Their mentality to start the game, and we always preach taking it in 15-minute blocks, especially on the road, trying to win the game 15 minutes at a time, because they're all going to look a little bit different. There's going to be periods of 15 minutes where we're going to have to suffer, like we did tonight, where they pin you back at the top of your box, and it becomes blocks and tackles and headers and saves, and it's a real challenge. So, overall, I thought we limited them as best we could. But our starts have been really solid. Sometimes on the road, when you score early, you usually take some pressure and they come at you for a little bit, and that's natural. But overall, yeah, I'm really happy with how we've started games. We've grown as a club in terms of how we finish them, and that's something that still we have a bad taste in our mouth. I think we could do better just closing out these games, even in tough environments like tonight.
Yeah, and another thing too, if you guys listened to the podcast last year, early on in the season, a big thing for me was talking about the amount of goals that the Union have conceded in the first 15 minutes of the games. I would always say, oh, they've conceded way too many. And yet again, here's the Union conceding. And this year, they've conceded new goals in the first 15 minutes now, hopefully against Red Bulls. Hopefully, I'm not jinxing that. But yeah, we've seen the complete opposite from the start of last year compared to this year, where the Union are not conceding in that time frame and they're actually scoring goals. And so you just want to see the Union again. You just want to see the Union be able to build on their lead, because once they build on their lead, then that's when they're going to get more counterattacking opportunities. And we see the Union put 3-4 goals up against the opposition. But let's go ahead and break down the goals. 4 goals this game. And starting out with the first goal scored by Daniel Gazdag in the 9th minute. So this comes from a throw-in from the Union. It's a really, really fast throw-in from Ali Bedoya. I find Julian Carranza just completely unmarked. I mean, he has acres of space. He runs into it. He's able to collect the ball. And by the time Julian Carranza gets the ball, he has 3 LAFC players looking at him. And Julian's able to dribble by all 3 of those guys. I mean, he does an excellent job to get out of it. Julian Carranza, I think, is... I know he's on loan, right? But you got to imagine that the Union already have a preset price. It's already been agreed. And once they accept that, I mean, the Union have to accept it, right? No matter how long Julian Carranza stays here with the Union, he'll go down as one of the best, if not the best striker, in my opinion, that the Union have ever had. I mean, you can see through 9 games he's played now with the Union why Inter Miami paid $6 million, because of how good this guy is. He just had to get out of the system down there in Miami. But I think he's the most talented striker we have. And watching him dribble out of such a tight space against 3 LAFC players, I mean, that was a phenomenal play right there. So, like I said, he dribbles past 3 players for LAFC. And because of that, the back line for LAFC are watching, the 2 center backs are watching him. And then the outside right back is occupied by Leon Flock. And so Leon Flock's just taking up the position that your striker normally would. And because of that, Leon Flock's making that run. It pulls the outside back out of position. He's guarding Leon Flock tightly. And so Julian Carranza is able to just take up some more space. And by the time that the right center back closes down Julian Carranza, and then you have the outside back marking Leon Flock, you have Kai Wagner, who's in loads of space. And so Julian Carranza times that ball to Kai Wagner perfectly. It's a perfectly weighted pass, because Kai Wagner is able to one-time finish that and then play the ball into the back post, and one-time finish by Daniel Gazdag. But before that, too, I mean, I was just talking about Leon Flock, Julian Carranza, and Kai Wagner. If you pay attention on that play where Daniel Gazdag starts, and we talked about this, some people on Twitter midweek, how the heat map shows that Daniel Gazdag has been playing as a number 8. That's where he's had a lot of his touches on the right side of the field. And this play, Daniel Gazza, again, is coming from that position from where Ali Bedoya would play. And so he's making a late run into the box. And because of that, nobody knows. None of the LAFC players know that Daniel Gazza's behind him, because you have the right back, you have the right center back focusing on Julian Carranza having the ball. Liam Flock does a good job taking both of those, the right back out of the play, like I said. So you have the left center back just facing the ball, the left back facing the ball, and they're not aware of Daniel Gazza coming in from behind the left back. And before Julian Carranza even plays the ball to Kai Wagner, Daniel Gazza has his arms up saying, hey, look, I'm unmarked. If you can get me on the pass, this is an easy goal. And that's exactly what happens. He's unmarked, just like we saw against New York City. Very similar play. And that is Daniel Gazza's bread and butter right there, is starting at the right side of the field and then making a late run into the box. And he has an easy tap in to put the Union up 1-0. And so if we go ahead and look up the next goal, which was scored from LAFC, from Mahala, it starts with Andre Blake. And somebody on that Twitter thread where I was talking about my Union MVPs, they were complaining about Andre Blake's distribution. And that's where it starts this goal for LAFC. Andre Blake has a long kick from outside of the box, kicks it up to Nate Harriel. It doesn't happen often, but Nate loses the 1v1 aerial duel. And so now Nate's caught out of position because he's way too far up. And now LAFC have 4 guys against 4 players for the Union. So you would think, okay, well, the Union have this covered. You have Jacob Glesnes starting this play kind of as the right back because Nate's caught up out of position. You have Jose Martinez and Jack Elliott as your 2 center backs, and then Kai Wagner is aware of his guy making a run towards the far post. And so the Union actually have that covered really well. Nate Harriel's trying to get back and cover. So, I mean, the Union have numbers. It's 4v4. The Union are fine. But as soon as number 9, the striker for LAFC, collects the ball after they won the header, he starts to cut inside. And because of that, you have Jacob Glesnes committing to the ball. You have Jose Martinez now committing to the ball. Liam Flock loses his mark, which, if they would have saw this pass, could have been an issue because they had a free runner running into the box. And then Jack Elliott's guarding Mahala. And so they play the guy who runs off of Liam Flock. Liam Flock could have done a lot better of a job just tracking back, getting a hold of that guy. And I believe that was Blessing who they passed the ball to. And then Mahala is just in a great position here because Jack Elliott, because Liam Flock didn't close down Blessing, who ran off of him free. And Jack Elliott has to make the decision to, all right, do I shut down the ball? Because if I don't, then Blessing's going to have a clear shot on goal. Or do I leave Mahala? Jack Elliott leaves Mahala. And as soon as he does that, it's a perfectly weighted ball by Blessing. And it's in the back of the net for LAFC. And they're able to tie the game out 1-1. Easy finish for LAFC. And it's unfortunate that the Union were caught out of position there. Nate Harriel, like I said, does not get caught out of position all too often. But it does happen. It did happen. And you go ahead and look. The next goal that the Union scored was courtesy of Julian Carranza. And this was probably the best goal I think that the Union have scored all season. Came from Nate Harriel winning a header. He heads the ball and kicks the ball, to Jose Martinez. Jose Martinez looks like he just awkwardly clears the ball up field. And the ball takes an awkward bounce past Escobar, which then Kai Wagner is able to win the header. Sergio Santos is able to get to the ball first. Has a nice flick one to Daniel Gazdag. Now, as soon as Sergio Santos flicks the ball over to Daniel Gazdag, you have Julian Carranza 1v1 against their left center back. You have Liam Flock, who's kind of playing as, a false 9 as a 10. He's making a late run into the box, which really draws this play open for Julian Kranza, because as soon as Leon Flock's making that run, two players for LAFC have to commit to Julian Kranza. The left center back who was originally marking Julian Kranza now has his focus towards Leon Flock. And all it takes is that movement from Leon Flock to really set up this play. And Julian Kranza does a good job here to keep himself on side. And the finish, a great right touch, and then a first time finish with his left foot. How he was able to shoot that ball when he was falling down, I mean, definitely the goal of the season we've seen early on for the Union. I don't know. We talked about it a lot last season, where the Union have struggled with their strikers having good touches, and that wasn't the case at all with Mikel Ua this year so far, with Julian Kranza. Both of those guys have had some phenomenal touches and really have set themselves up for either a really good pass or a really good goal. And yeah, the first time touch by Julian Kranza with his right foot to set it up on his left, that's what makes the play. But Leon Flock, I think, gets a lot of hate from people because they say he offers nothing offensively. But if it wasn't for Leon Flock making that run, having three players for LAFC focus in on him, then I don't think Daniel Gazdag or Julian Kranza would have been able to find that space. And then you go ahead and look at the second goal that LAFC scored, came off of a set piece, like I mentioned earlier. The Union always, I talked about it with Frank, they always play a hybrid system where they leave Jack Elliott, Jacob Glesnes, Nate Harriel usually, and then a striker as the players that are in the zone. And Jack Elliott gets beat in the zone. What happens? LAFC were getting to the ball first a lot of times on the night, and the Union were lucky that this was the only goal that they conceded on the set piece. So Escobar is going to go ahead and score this goal for LAFC, but the ball is going to go to number 11 of LAFC, and Kai Wagner, that was supposed to be his man, where you have Jack Elliott, Jacob Glesnes, Nate Harriel, all in the zonal spaces for the Union. And so Jack Elliott sees, okay, well, I can get this. This is in my zone. I can go ahead and get the ball. He loses the header. A great header on target against Andre Blake. Andre Blake does well to save the ball, but he spills it, and Escobar just runs off of Julian Kranza, who was marking him, and then has a easy goal because Andre Blake already initially made the save, and he's already down on the ground, and Escobar is just able to put the ball in the back of the net. So, I mean, if the Union wouldn't have lost that header, that goal definitely wouldn't have happened, obviously. Doesn't happen often that the Unions give up goals since they've switched to a hybrid formation, but it did happen against LAFC. And I want to go ahead and talk about my 3-star players real quick. And number 1, Daniel Gazdag, 1 goal, 1 assist, 20 for 23 on passes. This is the most accurate game I believe we've seen from Daniel Gazdag since he's been a Union player. I didn't look into that too much, but it seems like it's definitely up there. Definitely a top 3 game. 2 for 3 on tackles, 1 block, 9 ball recoveries, 6 out of 7 ground duels, 1. Julian Kranza, 1 out of 1 shot accuracy, clinical finisher. 3 out of 4 dribbles completed. 1 out of 1 tackles, 1. 2 ball recoveries, 9 out of 16 duels, 1. And then Kai Wagner is my 3rd star on the night. Had an assist, 4 chances created, 4 for 8 on crosses, 4 interceptions, and 5 recoveries. I don't have to break down the goals. Obviously, Daniel Gazdag and Julian Kranza are going to get on the star players because both of those guys scored on the night. But, yeah, I mean, those 3 guys really, really impressed me. And game after game, I mean, those guys always put up star performances. And great to see both Julian and Daniel Gazdag continue to get on the score sheet for the Union. And then, like I mentioned earlier, I said on Twitter this morning, my Union MVP players through the first 10 games. Like I mentioned, 34% of the season is complete. Number one, I said Julian Kranza. He has 4 goals, 3 assists. Daniel Gazdag, 5 goals, 3 assists. He's 7th in MLS with shots on target with 64.7% of his shots on target. Nate Harriel would be 3 on my list. He's tied for first in MLS in interceptions with 29. 11th in tackles, which is 30th in MLS. 11th in tackles. He has 31. Kai Wagner is number 4 on my list. 12th in key passes with 21. He's first in blocks with 31 on the season. And then 5, Andre Blake. He's 3rd in MLS in save percentage with 81% of shots he saved. 4th in MLS in goals per 90 minutes, which he's allowed 0.8 goals per 90 minutes. So I know a lot of people said, yeah, I agree with your list, but I got to put Andre Blake up top. And yeah, I mean, Andre Blake, he saved us against Nashville. I definitely agree with that. And he's always going to save us points. He's done it in the past. He's done it this season. But for my MVP rankings, goalkeepers, defenders, they don't really get, the accolades that they should. They're never going to win team MVP, or sometimes a goalie's going to win team MVP. But a league MVP, you're never going to see a defender, a goalkeeper win that. It's always going to be offensive players. And Julian Carranza, Daniel Gazdag are our 2 best players right now offensively. And Zach Laboso and I were talking about this on that Twitter thread where he brought up a really, really good point where I'll go ahead and read his comment once I bring it up. But he went ahead and was just talking about Daniel Gazdag and Julian Kranza being 1A, 1B for him. He said, I feel like without Gazdag, nothing could happen offensively, but without Kranza, nothing Gazdag does matters when Ua is not available, of course. I don't think any of the front 3 really thrive without each other. And yeah, I mean, that's a really good point because, it's been interesting to see Julian Kranza has been partnered with all 3 of the strikers now, and he still performs. And a big part of that is because of what Gazdag offers. And Zach's right. Without Gazdag, does this offense perform the way that they've been? Probably not, in my opinion, but it is interesting to see, people were calling Julian Kranza a flop down in Miami, and I'll keep saying it, right, where I wasn't thrilled about that signing that the Union did with Miami bringing Kranza in here because seeing what Kranza did down in Miami, only 3 goals. And you bring him into the right system, a team that's going to make him shine. He's going to make his teammates better. And now we're reaping the benefits. And I think, when we brought in Julian Carranza, a lot of people weren't happy with that. But he's been playing phenomenal. And you could definitely make a argument that Daniel Gazag's number 1 on this list with his 5 goals, 3 assists. Because I do think without Daniel Gazdag there at the quote-unquote 10, then this team doesn't function as well as they've been functioning this season. He's definitely found his role into this team. And I think another thing that Daniel Gazdag and Julian Kranza do well is both of these guys understand when to press. Julian Kranza does so much of the dirty work, and you don't typically get that in your striker. And when it was announced that the Union were signing Julian Kranza on loan, a lot of people were saying, yeah, he'll work good off the ball. He'll work good for you defensively. But offensively, I'm not sure he has much there. And yeah, we're getting both defensively and offensively. And he's the one who starts the press for the Union. And then you have Daniel Gazdag, who's really dialed into those pressing keys. And both of these guys have been playing fantastic. Nate Harriel, everybody assumed that Bizo was going to be the starting right back this season. After one game, Nate was given his chance in Montreal and hasn't looked back since. He's completely taken that spot from Bizo. I did not expect Nate to be this good. And because of the way he's playing week in, week out, I mean, when I'm giving my 3-star players, Nate's constantly on that list. I know I left him out, but I could have put him on there against LAFC. Yeah, he had that little mistake where he was caught off field and missed the 50-50 ball, which he doesn't normally do. So that's why I didn't put him in my top 3 for this game against LAFC. But Nate, week in, week out, I mean, he's performing so well for the Union. Kai Wagner, number 4 on this list. Yeah, you can argue that, yeah, you can rearrange how I have this list set up, but I think for sure these 5 players are the best so far this season for the Union. I mean, Kai Wagner, 12th in key passes, first in blocks. This guy, week in, week out, is putting his body on the line for the Union. He's doing a terrific job shutting down wingers, shutting down players that love to dribble, that are successful dribblers. Did a great job against Carlos Vela. Did a good job against Derek Etienne with the Columbus Crew. So Kai Wagner, I mean, just seeing how he's defended this season, I mean, you expect that with Kai. But I think this year the Union have told Kai Wagner to go a little bit farther forward. We'll have Liam Flock sit back and cover for you if we lose the ball. And Kai Wagner's deliveries into the box every single time have been terrific. He could have had a couple assists last night if Corey Burke would have had a good touch, if he could have finished a couple of chances. And just week in, week out, Kai Wagner's deliveries are getting better and better. And there's the way that Kai's been playing early on this season, there's no way I see Kai here past the summertime. I mean, teams in Europe would love to have a fullback that attacks like Kai, that defends like Kai, and I think this summer we'll finally see a good offer for Kai Wagner. And I know Tom Burgett said last week or 2 weeks ago that Fulham were really close to signing Kai Wagner during the winter transfer window. With Fulham coming back up to the Premier League, is Kai Wagner a player that they go and look back into? I think it's very, very possible. But 5 on that list, Andre Blake. Again, I gave his stats, just terrific player. And the last thing I want to go to is blunder of the week. And so I don't know how many of you guys have Twitter, but Mamadou Fall, he plays for LAFC. And this must have happened like directly right after the game. He put out a tweet and said, "They really came out to the West Coast and parked their bus. Huh. Damn." Like, this dude played in the game. And he says that the Union parked their bus. This was end-to-end soccer. The Union would attack. LAFC would attack. Yeah, LAFC had the ball more than the Union, but what team doesn't? Like, that's just the way that the Union play. It's as soon as the Union win the ball back, then they try to play a risky pass to break you down defensively. It's a counterattacking style. And for him to say, yeah, they parked their bus, like, that's not what happened at all. Like, you guys were moving the ball fast, and the Union weren't just going to commit and get beat. They kept Carlos Vela in check. Like, I don't get it. I don't get how you play and you say that they park the bus, because at the end of the game, like, players on both sides seem extremely exhausted because this game was going out down in the LAFC attack and down in the Union's defensive zone. So Mamadou Fall, stick to playing and not trying to analyze games. But that's pretty much it for this episode. Again, this Tuesday, we all know that the Union take on Orlando City in the U.S. Open Cup. I'm not going to go ahead and do a preview episode for that game just because that game's coming up so fast. But Jim Curtin did say after the game, he said, we'll put a squad out there that can get a win. You'll see some of the young guys get an opportunity to step up against a good Orlando team. So I don't expect, no more than 3, maybe 4 changes. I know Jim's definitely not going to change up that back line, because Jim says that's the one thing he never wants to change up is the back line, because it starts with defense. It starts with your 4 guys in the back, how they build out the play. He doesn't want to break up that chemistry. So I'd be shocked if those guys can get replaced for this game. I know Stuart Finley's waiting patiently on the bench to get his opportunity, but when you're playing as good as Jacob Glesnes, Jack Elliott, I mean, how do you bench one of those guys? And I know, see it all the time in cup competitions over in Europe where teams rotate their squad. But Jim Curtin's a manager that does not like breaking up that back line. So I'd be shocked if Jacob Glesnes or Jack Elliott come out of this game. Jose Martinez, since he left the game with a knee injury, Jim said also after the game, you could see Leon Flock play as a lone 6. You could see Jesus Bueno as the 6, Jack McGlynn as a 6. Now that I'm thinking about it, you could possibly see Jack Elliott at the 6 with Stuart Finley being the center back partner for Jacob Glesnes, but I don't know. I don't think Jim's going to split up the partnership between Jack and Jacob. But the more I'm thinking about it, I think, we've seen Jack Elliott play the 6 before, and if Jose's okay, if you just want to rest him for this game, you definitely could play Jack Elliott as a 6. I don't think I would, but I'm sure actually it probably is something that Jim Curtin's thinking about doing. Ali Bedoya, you'll probably rest for this game, I'd imagine, which means you bring in Quinn Sullivan. Jack McGlynn, I think, probably comes into the game. I know you want to get playing time for Paxton Aronson, but unless you change up this formation completely, I don't see how you bring in Paxton Aronson for Daniel Gazdag when he's been red hot for you. It's a tough decision for Jim Curtin. I know he wants to go for it. And also remember that there are no limits on the number of international players anymore in the U.S. Open Cup. So it's not like it has been in years past where you were only allowed 5 international players. So, the Union don't have to worry about that this year. But whatever the Union do, I'm sure that Jim Curtin's going to put out a strong lineup. A couple young players, like he said, will get an opportunity against Orlando. And hopefully the Union are able to beat Orlando and advance in the U.S. Open Cup. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow @FreeKickPod, wherever you get your podcasts, The Free Kick. And after Orlando City, we have the New York Red Bulls. So, I will try my best this week to get somebody on the podcast, whether it be a commentator, somebody that works for MLSsoccer.com to preview this game. But we'll definitely figure out something for a match preview this week. But until then, my name is Todd, and this is the Free Kick Podcast.